Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chavanarudamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudre. Shrimatam Svagatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Kridyantas Lokya Vadrani Vidnoja Surshatam. Nashta Presha Padri Shunityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki. We will be reading today Canto 4. We will start chapter 26, text 1 to 3. Naraduvacha. Sa ekada maheshvaso radham panchashvam ashugam dvisham dvichakram ekaksham trivenum pancha panduram ekarashmi ekadamanam ekanidam dvikubaram pancha praharanam sapta varudham pancha vikramam haimapaskaram aruhyam svarna varma kshaya shudhi ekadasha chamu nantam Pancha Prastamagat Vanam. Word-to-word translation. Narada Uvacha. Narada said, Saha King Puranjana, Ekada once upon a time, Maha Ishvasam, carrying his strong bow and arrows, Radham chariot, Pancha Ashvam 5 horses, Ashogam going very swiftly, Dvi Isham 2 arrows, Dvi Chakram 2 wheels, Eka 1, Aksham axle, 3 venom flags, Pancha 5, Banduram obstacles, Eka 1, Rashmi rope, rain, Eka 1, Damanam chariot driver, Eka 1, Nidam sitting place, Dvi 2, Kubaram post to which the harnesses are fixed, Pancha 5, Praharanam weapons, Sapta 7, Varudham covering or ingredients of the body, Pancha 5, Vikramam processes, Haima golden, Upaskaram ornaments, Arhya riding on, Swarna golden, Varma armor, Akshaya inexhaustible, Ishubhiha quiver, Ekadasha 11, Chamu Nadha commanders, Pancha 5, Prastham destinations, objectives, Agad went, Vanam to the forest. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The great sage Narada continued. My dear king, once upon a time, King Puranjana took up his great bow and, equipped with golden armor and a quiver of unlimited arrows, and accompanied by 11 commanders, he sat on his chariot driven by 5 swift horses and went to the forest named Pancha Prastha. He took with him in that chariot 2 explosive arrows. The chariot itself was situated on 2 wheels and 1 revolving axle. On the chariot were 3 flags, 1 rein, 1 chariot driver, 1 sitting place, 2 poles to which the harness was fixed, 5 weapons and 7 coverings. The chariot moved in 5 different styles, and 5 obstacles lay before it. All the decorations on the chariot were made of gold. Report. These 3 verses explain how the material body of the living entity is under the control of the 3 qualities of the external energy. The body itself is the chariot, and the living entity is the owner of the body, as explained in Bhagavad Gita 2.13. Dehinosmin Hadihe. The owner of the body is called the Dehi, and he is situated within this body, specifically within the heart. The living entity is driven by 1 chariot driver. The chariot itself is made of 3 gunas, 3 qualities of material nature, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Yantra Rudani Maya. The word yantra means carriage. The body is given by material nature, and the driver of the body is Paramatma, the super soul. The living entity is seated within the chariot. This is the actual position. The living entity is always being influenced by the 3 qualities, sattva, gunas, rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.13. Triphir gunam yar bhavai. A living entity is bewildered by the three qualities of material nature. These three qualities are described in this verse as three flags. By a flag, one can come to know who the owner of the chariot is. Similarly, by the influence of the three qualities of material nature, one can easily know the direction in which the chariot is moving. In other words, one who has eyes to see can understand how the body is being driven, influenced by the particular type of quality of material nature. In these three verses, the activity of the living entity is described to prove how the body becomes influenced by the quality of ignorance, even when a person wants to be religious. Narada Muni wanted to prove to King Parichinnaparishad that the king was being influenced by the tamaguna, the quality of ignorance, even though the king was supposed to be very religious. According to Karma Kanda, the process of roots of activities, a person performs various sacrifices directed by the Vedas, and in all those sacrifices, animal killing or experimenting on the life of animals to test the power of Vedic mantras is enjoined. Animal killing is certainly conduced under the influence of the mode of ignorance. Even though one may be religiously inclined, animal sacrifice is recommended in the Shastras, not only in the Vedas, but even in the modern scriptures of other sects. These animal sacrifices are recommended in the name of religion, but actually animal sacrifice is meant for persons in the mode of ignorance. When such people kill animals, they can at least do so in the name of religion. However, when the religious system is transcendental, like the Vaishnava religion, there is no place for animal sacrifice. Such transcendental religious system is recommended by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Because King Prajnaparishad was engaged in performing various sacrifices in which animals were killed, Narada Muni pointed out that such sacrifices are influenced by the mode of ignorance. From the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, it is said, Projhitam Kaitavotra, all kinds of religious systems that are involved in cheating are completely kicked out of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad Dharma, the religion dealing with one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, animal sacrifice is not recommended. In the performance of Sankirtana Yagna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, there is no recommendation for animal sacrifices. In these three verses, King Pranjana's going to the forest to kill animals is symbolic of the living entities being driven by the mode of ignorance and thus engaging in different activities for sense gratification. The material body itself indicates that the living entity is already influenced by the three modes of material nature and that he is driven to enjoy material resources. When the body is influenced by the mode of ignorance, its infection becomes very acute. When it's influenced by the mode of passion, the infection is at the symptomatic stage. However, when the body is influenced by the mode of goodness, the materialistic infection becomes purified. The ritualistic ceremonies recommended in religious systems are certainly on the platform of goodness, but because within this material world, even the mode of goodness is sometimes polluted by the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance, a man in goodness is sometimes driven by the influence of ignorance. It is herein described that King Pranjana once went to the forest to kill animals. This means that he, the living entity, came under the influence of mode of ignorance. The forest in which King Pranjana engaged in hunting was named Panchaprastha. The word Pancha means five, and this indicates the objects of the five senses. The body has 5 working senses, namely the hands, legs, the tongue, the rectum, and the genitals. By taking full advantage of these working senses, the body enjoys material life. The chariot is driven by 5 horses, which represent the 5 sense organs, namely the eyes, ears, nose, skin, and tongue. These sense organs are very easily attracted by the sense objects. Consequently, the horses are described as moving swiftly. On the chariot, King Pranjana kept 2 explosive weapons, which may be compared to ahankara or false ego. This false ego is typified by 2 attitudes. I am this body, ahanta, and everything in my bodily relationships belongs to me, mamata. The 2 wheels of the chariot may be compared to the 2 moving facilities, namely sinful life and religious life. The chariot is decorated with 3 flags, which represent the 3 modes of material nature. The 5 kinds of obstacles or uneven roads represent the 5 kinds of air passing within the body. These are prana, apana, udana, samana, and vyana. The body itself is covered by 7 coverings, namely skin, muscle, fat, blood, marrow, bone, and semen. The living entity is covered by 3 subtle material elements and 5 gross material elements. These are actually obstacles placed before the living entity on the path of liberation from material bondage. The word rasmi, rope, in this verse indicates the mind. The word nida is also significant, for nida indicates the nest where a bird takes rest. In this case, nida is the heart, where the living entity is situated. The living entity sits in one place only. The causes of his bondage are 2, namely lamentation and illusion. In material existence, the living entity simply hunkers to get something he can never get. Therefore, he is an illusion. As a result of being in this illusory situation, the living entity is always lamenting. Thus, lamentation and illusion are described herein as dvi kubara, the 2 posts of bondage. The living entity carries out various desires through 5 different processes, which indicate the working of the 5 working senses. The golden ornaments and dress indicate that the living entity is influenced by the quality of rajaguna, passion. One who has a good deal of money or riches is especially driven by the mode of passion. Being influenced by the mode of passion, one desires so many things for enjoyment in this material world. The 11 commanders represent the 10 senses and the mind. The mind is always making plans with the 10 commanders to enjoy the material world. The forest named Panchaprastha, where the king went to hunt, is the forest of the 5 sense objects: form, taste, sound, smell, and touch. Thus, in these 3 verses, Narada Muni describes the position of the material body and the engagement of the living entity within it. End of purport. ओम ज्ञाननिधुरान्तस्य ज्ञानशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिधिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती गुरुवाणी प्रचुरं पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः च पतितं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। I humbly bow down and seek blessings from all the assembled devotees, and thank you for the opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam for my own purification. I have selected a few points to summarize from the lecture of His Holiness Ramapada Swami. We are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4. Last chapter we read was titled The Characteristics of King Puranjana. Today we started reading chapter 26, titled King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt and his queen becomes angry. The lineage of kings is one of the subjects in Srimad Bhagavatam. Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlada Maharaj, and so on and so on. But here we are reading about one king in that line, and because of his heritage, he had a great religious personality. but he lost the purpose behind the Vedas, and losing the essence of the purpose, he fell into ignorance. And although he was doing religious activity, he was driven by senses and wishing to be the enjoyer immediately of religious activities and the enjoyer of the fruits of those activities, and being very happy to consider himself religious in the whole process. Srila Prabhupada repeatedly 4 or 5 times addressing in the purport the point of influence of the modes of nature that are driving the living entity. When we are in the midst of being driven by the modes of nature, we don't feel that we are being driven by the modes of nature. We think, that's me, I am doing that, this is my experience. But we are being taken for a ride by the chariot. This body has a directional flag by the modes of nature. One who is situated in knowledge, or as Srila Prabhupada described, one who is trained to see, one who has the eyes of scriptures to see, he can see what's happening, that the living entity is being carried by the modes of nature. His Holiness Ramapada Swami was asked by different devotees one of the classical questions, how one can balance devotional service and work life, because life and workplace involve one in too many activities that don't elevate the consciousness. How one can get involved in occupation but not get contaminated with bad association. How to stay protected and pure, free from the material affection that we find ourselves in. Ramapada Swami advised that our basic process is the process of hearing and chanting, proper hearing and chanting, cleansing our consciousness, and uplifting and elevating spiritually the original consciousness of the soul, so that we can be protected. Staying in the mood of giving Krishna consciousness, of giving devotion, we could pray, Dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire, please give me the opportunity that this person or this atmosphere can be spiritually benefited. And even thinking in this way, Krishna somehow gives facility to do that. But another component that is being presented specifically in purport here, if one is situated in knowledge, he can see with detachment. In other words, various circumstances of life can be learning opportunities or opportunities to see through the scriptures. Krishna is giving us the whole panorama of the modes of nature, and one who is trained, as Srimad Bhagavatam is training us to see forces and influences of modes of nature, one who is trained can see where the living entity is coming from and where they are going to, the modes of nature that are carrying them presently and where this carrying them is going to take them, driven by the desire of sense gratification. To be driven is usually mode of passion, but to get the sense gratification, usually one needs assistance of mode of ignorance. And the mode of ignorance says, you are something you are not, you are this body. And since you are this body, and your nature is that you want to enjoy, then enjoy sense gratification and off you go in your chariot. And because you are the king, you are the enjoyer, you have all these resources that are being supplied because you are the king. In the allegory, King Pranjan is in a very nice situation, but he was not feeling satisfied. He needed material intelligence to get the facility for material enjoyment. So right from the beginning, this is a losing program. The nature of material enjoyment is before even when you get started, one who fails to have faith in Krishna, even before they begin any undertaking, they are already defeated. Before we begin any undertaking, what to speak of the mode of ignorance, and the symptom of mode of ignorance is animal killing. If one's heart is not pure and he has opulence, he gets a lot of pride. And when there is pride in the heart, then one falls. Everyone should make their heart pure. not get intoxicated with pride. If one becomes very proud, they can hurt anyone and they don't feel anything. Hurting others is not important because the most important person is the one who is hurting everyone around him. Inflicting pain and suffering on other living beings, such as animals, cruelty to animals, is part that comes from pride. Because if one doesn't have pride, how he could do that? It is the Mode of Ignorance Act, and Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that within religions in the world, there are different ways of killing animals. Engaging in animal sacrifice is ignorance in the name of religion. The purpose of the allegory is to explain to the king that his involvement in religious activity is of the nature of ignorance. However, it may be religious. It will not help the soul to get to the ultimate destination. It will get you stuck in three modes of nature more deeply with unlimited suffering, even though his expectations are opposite. This will continue to implicate and involve him in material existence, as long as the intention is sense gratification. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions again that in this age of Kali, the Sankirtana Yagya Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is recommended for our purification and for guiding souls back home to Godhead. I will stop